Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to this eAF variation form training session. This will be a similar session that we offered on the 8th of November following the go live of the forms, but we wanted to repeat this session to ensure that as many colleagues as possible have opportunity to attend, and also you have an opportunity to ask questions during this training session. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so if you would like me to demonstrate a particular scenario, please just pop your questions into the Slido and we can cover a very specific scenario if you would like, or if you have any specific questions relating on how to do a particular function within the form or within the portal, please feel free to ask. This is really aimed to be a session where we can offer you the best help as possible. I will now hand over very briefly to my colleague Christina, who will explain how to use the Slido, and then we will continue.
Thank you, Christina. Yes, first of all, please note that this session is being recorded. It will be made available through the EMA corporate website and YouTube channel, and also linked through our usual channels for communication with all the users that are the e-submission website and the product lifecycle management portal forum. During the session, we will use as an audience interaction tool Slido in order to collect your questions. Interaction via Slido is voluntary and you may opt to remain anonymous. Here you can find the specific instructions to join this Slido event. You can join at slido.com by using the code you see now projected on the screen. So #4276839. Or you can use the QR code and join via mobile phone. During the session, you might decide to upvote the questions from other users. So if you want to hear them answered first, please put a like on a question, or you can decide to send a new question. During the interactive Q&A session, we will be displaying the Slido in interactive tool live, and questions will be shown on the screen and addressed by our panelists. Okay, so I will now give the floor to Christina for the introduction part. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So the aim of today is really to look at the our new PLM portal. So the Product Lifecycle Management Portal is a new portal that was launched on 4th of November. At the moment, it hosts the electronic variation application form that can be used currently for the centralized procedure applications. I will give you a full demonstration of that demo later on, but here just a very quick overview. We are also providing here the link to the portal, so you can also, if you wish, during this training session, already log into the portal and have a look at it yourself. If you are an existing portal user with access rights to the system, you can also, if you wish, to follow my training, and you can try particular scenarios in the form yourself. And if you have any questions on those functions, please do ask. We also would like to very much encourage the use of the portal forum. The forum is a place where we publish latest news, announcements related to the application forms. User guidance is also available, similarly as the training videos. They are all available in the forum. This is a very dynamic and interactive tool where we can easily and very quickly publish information. We always at this point still try and replicate this information being published on the e-submissions website, because of course the other electronic applications forms are still in that website, as well as all the other e-submissions related content. But anything related to the PLM portal and the variation form is also available through the forum. We've just this week added a release notes of a release that went live this Monday. So it was a bug fix release. You can find those details of that bug fix release in that release note document. It also lists currently known limitations. Additionally, we've also added links to the available training videos and sessions that we offer. So if we move to the next slide and the next, so we can quickly look at the one of the main, some of the main limitations that we still have with regards to the use of the forms. So as previously, the scenarios for work sharings for CAPs and NAPs still need to be run using the interactive PDF form. However, work sharings that contain centrally authorized products only are of course possible using the new web form. We still have a limitation with regards to the variations that add new presentations. So if you have a change that includes a new presentation that is not yet available, because currently how the form works, you select the presentation or the package that is impacted by your change. Of course, these are not yet available in the system, so you cannot use this form at this point for those type of variations. Also, we have a small issue related to the large and complex images in the present and proposed fields. If you are struggling with that and the images are not displayed correctly, please note that as previously with the interactive form, you can provide a separate annex to the form in the module section 1.2. So there is no change to that. That is absolutely possible and allowed as in the past. And finally, we would, this is not a limitation per se that the form doesn't allow you to do it, but it is a strong recommendation that we would advise you not to start any longer procedures. So for example, if you have a complex type 2 variation, for example, and the products that you need to do the variation for contain, for example, pre-filled pens and pre-filled syringes, or other injectables, we would advise not to use the web-based application form at this time, because for now the products that are available through the form, they come directly from an EMA internal product database, SciMed. And we will be doing what we are internally calling a match and merge, where the product data will also come from XEVMPD, which means that the PMS IDs will change. And we're not quite sure how this will impact the forms for the ongoing procedures. So we would advise that it may be better to use the interactive PDF form for those type of variations for the time being. Of course, for other products, there is no problem. And if you have if you're not sure if your product may be impacted or not by this change in future, please feel free to check with us. You can raise a service desk ticket and provide the details of the product. We know which products will be impacted, so we can very quickly let you know if there is any change coming as a result of this match and merge release. So please feel free to ask, but this is just a recommendation. We will not, of course, reject that, but please bear in mind that it may have some changes in the form. Also, just to let you know that we are working on the list of these limitations and we're solving them one by one, a bit similarly as we have a number of known bugs. If you look at the release notes, you will see a list of already known bugs available. We are planning our releases so that we try and bring new features and stabilize the forms and fix some bugs. We have, for example, recently solved a limitation that related to variation that contains a line extension. So if you had only one scope selected, one variation scope selected, it was impossible to indicate that it also includes a line extension. This was solved in the release that went live on Monday, the 12th of December. So we are continuously working, but we also need to bear in mind that we have some limitations. So for example, the issues related to products coming from PMS, be it the nationally authorized products, including MRP, DCP, or for example, this match and merge, where products come from XEV and PD into PMS, are not directly related to the electronic application form itself, but they are coming or a result of a data coming from a different system, from PMS. So some of them we cannot solve on our own, and we need help from colleagues from different product teams, but we are continuously trying to improve. And when you can see in the release notes number of bugs and known limitations listed, if you would like to have your say which ones are the most important bugs and limitations to be fixed as soon as possible, please, again, you can use the forum. You can always raise a new topic in the forum, or you can contact us via service desk ticket, or even during one of these sessions, such as the training today or one of the Q&A clinics. You can let us know what do you think are the most important features to be improved or most important bugs to be fixed. We, of course, try and prioritize the bug fixes where the impact is the widest for most users, but of course users may have different understanding of importance, so we also very much appreciate feedback from those people who are actually using the portal. So you're the ones who really know best what works and what doesn't work in the form. So please feel free to provide this information and help us to improve the system for you. So we can then go to the next slide. So this is just to show you an example of a release notes. So we always highlight which part of the document or which part of the system is impacted. So we have the PLM portal that contains the electronic application form, which is the web-based form. And then, of course, there is a PDF output of that form, and that PDF contains an XML. So some changes, some bug fixes relate only to the XML, some only relate to the PDF, some only relate to the form itself, the web-based form, and some relate to the whole portal functionality. So we always try and indicate which component is impacted. And we also, you will see that there are ID numbers. They will not make much sense to you, but it is important ID for us to know, because we track these bugs in a system. For some of them, we simply call them known limitations because it makes more sense. They're not necessarily bugs or defects of the form, but they are features that are still missing from there. So you can also see that some of them say known limitations. But this is a document that will be published regularly. We normally have a release schedule that every 2 weeks there will be a new version where some issues or some bugs will be solved, some other features may be developed. Sometimes it may take longer than 2 weeks to develop a particular feature. So we will be working on the background, and we may only release certain items. We may hold back during some of the 2 weekly releases, but this document is dynamic and will always be updated and available to you through the forum and the eSubmissions website. But immediately, normally the evening before the go live, or at the latest in the morning of the release, the production releases are pushed always on Monday evenings every other week. So now we had a production release on the 12th of December. We will not have any production releases during the Christmas period, so the next one will be somewhere around mid-January. But this is all about the release notes that I have for now, and I will hand over to my colleague Joao, who will talk a little bit about access management and data visibility, depending on the role that you have assigned to you in the portal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina, and good morning, everyone. Welcome also from my side to this training session. I will quickly share my screen so to talk to you about access management applicable to the PLM portal. Hopefully you can see my screen. In a nutshell, the access management for the PLM portal has been designed in a flexible way, so to cope with the different working models that each organization may be working with. This access management is a decentralized procedure, meaning that it's up to each organization to manage their own access. And this management is done via authorized users. So the EMA will authorize administrators for each organization, and then those administrators are the responsible ones for approving or denying applicant roles. So in the end, these would be the ones that have the access to the portal and that can do operations within the PLM portal. Please note that if you are an administrator and when you accept or approve an applicant role request, you are granting access to the data that is part of the PLM and of the application form. So you may be given access to commercially confidential information to users, and we should always bear this in mind when approving or rejecting roles. With regards to the applicant roles, we have 3 roles: the applicant coordinator, applicant manager, and applicant coordinator. These 3 roles grant access to specific operations in the PLM portal, and they work in a way that one role inherits the grants of the previous one. So if we quickly start with the applicant coordinator role, this is the most basic role, let's say, so the one that has limited access or grants within the PLM portal. This is a role that is meant, for instance, for co-authoring. So when you want someone to help you filling in the details of an application form, this role also grants permission to select classifications. Then if we move to the applicant manager role, we have so we inherit the roles of the contributor. So everything the contributor can do in the PLM, the manager can also do, with some additional grants. So the manager can, for instance, create an application form. The manager can add products to that application form, finalize, manage the form that was created by the manager user. So this is additional grants on top of the contributor. And then the coordinator role. This is the overarching role, let's say. So again, the coordinator inherits the grants given to the manager. And on top, the coordinator can see and have full access to all the applications that have been created for his or her organization. In this table, we see with more detail what are the operations here on the left-hand side that each role can do or can have grants for. Some summary notes on top of what I already mentioned is that the administrator roles per se, they do not have any access to the PLM portal. So if you are an administrator, your main function is to approve or reject roles. And if on top you want to be an applicant, so to manage application forms, you should also assign to yourself an applicant related role. And also you can see here we will have 2 roles for the NCAs, for the competent authorities, one administrator and one applicant role, and this is already in line with the upcoming releases when we introduce the NAPS products. So what do you need in order to have access to the PLM portal or be an administrator? So basically 2 or 3 things. You need to have an EMA user account active. So you need to register with your company's email address or external email address. You need to have roles assigned to that account. And in the specific case of you being an administrator, you will need to have assigned proof of authority. This is a step in the request for this role. This is all done in the EMA account management portal, our online platform for requesting and manage access to EMA applications. In this slide, you have a couple of links where you can either check whether your account is active. So you may have had previous interactions with EMA. So if you have an user account, you can just reuse it. You can reactivate it. You can recover credentials, retrieve username, reset password. So you have all these relevant links. They are all within the EMA account management portal. We also make reference to the user guide for registration that is publicly available. All the steps, all this information that is been given in this training session, it's fully detailed there. Further to the user account and roles that you should have, you must also ensure that your organization is registered in our OMS database, Organization Management Service. This is done via the SPOR website. And it's also relevant, if not done yet, that you must register your organization. I will now show you briefly, so a quick demo on how to request a role. So we go to the EMA account management portal. The link or the URL is EMA register.ema.europa.eu. So this is the main page you see. All the links that I mentioned in the slide, they are basically in this main page under these accordions, and should be straightforward in case you need any help with your user account. Assuming that your account is already active and settled, I will then proceed with the sign in and add my username and password. So now that I am in, a couple of remarks before we go through the process of requesting a role. If you are an administrator, this here where you read your pending approvals is where you will see any request coming from other users from your organization. And this is where you will be able to approve or reject those requests. Also, if we click in edit entity, edit identity, apologies, not edit identity, manage access. That's the one that I wanted to show, to see what roles are already in your assigned to your account. So in my case, I'm an administrator, so I see more data than needed. But you see here, my username has all these roles assigned to my account. So here it's also good to have an overview of the roles that are already assigned to you. So going back to the home page, to then request a role, we click on request access for organization. And then we have to follow these 5 steps. The first step is what we call search criteria. So we need to give some criteria to filter down the subsequent step, the organization. So here we should add some filter to identify to which organization we want to request the role. So the country is a required filter, so we can just use the drop-down menu, for instance, to select the country. I will select Netherlands, or we can also type, for instance, Italy, and then we prompt with the country. You can also write United Kingdom. And on top of this required filter, we have to add at least one more under the other criteria. So here I'm going to use the name, and I'm going to write European Medicines Agency. And then I click next. We can also, if we have already the org ID or the log ID, city, postcode, address, as you prefer. Then we click next. And then I should see a small list of organizations that comply with the criteria I just added. And there we go. So in this case, my criteria brings two organizations. So in this case, we can also request in one single request, we can have more than one organization assigned to the request. So I can already request a specific role for more than one organization if that applies. In case I will select the two just for you to see, and then I click next. And the next step is the selection of the role. So which role I want to request for the selected organization. Here we see the whole list of roles that apply to different EMA applications. Maybe to simplify, we can use the search box and we can type, for instance, eAF. And then we see the list of eAF related roles. In my case, because I'm a user admin from the EMA, I only see this one. In your case, you will see the three roles, the three applicant related roles or the admin role. So for this demo, I click the one I can see. So I will become a user admin and click next. And my request is submitted. We skipped the step 4, additional info. This is the step where the proof of authority needs to be attached. So in your case, you will need to still follow the step 4 and attach the signed proof of authority in case, of course, you are requesting an admin role. Otherwise, as you could see, we skipped the step and went from step 3 to step 5, where we get the confirmation that the request has been submitted with the specific ID. And then what happens next is that your administrator receives then the notification, and the user administrator needs to come to the EMA account management portal and approve or reject the role. The syncing time, as soon as the role is approved, should be around 45 minutes. So you should receive an email as soon as your administrator approves your request. From there, you should wait approximately 45 minutes until you can access the PLM portal. And I would briefly also show the sign in on the PLM portal. So if we go to the main page, we click on the sign in button, either at the top right corner or in the middle of the page. And the sign in the PLM portal is following a multi-factor authentication. So the first step is to add your user ID followed by id.ema.europa.eu. Please do not forget to use this. So here you should not add your work-related email address. We receive a couple of service desk tickets with not being able to sign in, and this was mainly the reason. So please here, you have to use your EMA user ID and then followed by @id.ema.europa.eu. Then we click next, and then we have our password. And then there it comes, the multi-factor authentication step. So here, so in addition to the username and password, for safety reasons, we add this additional step. The defaulted multi-factor authentication step is utilizing the Microsoft Authenticator app. So in this case, I have it on my mobile phone. I receive a notification, which I'm doing it right now, which is asking me, are you trying to log in? Yes or no? And I will say, yes, I approve. If I don't want to use this as the multi-factor authentication method, I can also click here. I can't use my Microsoft Authentication app right now, and I can use or I can choose to receive an SMS code or a phone call to complete this step. And then it asks me if I want to stay signed in. I'll say no for now. And then I am in. So in this case, I received this message. It's also good that this message is received. For my account, I don't have any role yet assigned, so I cannot really go into the application form itself. So although I have active EMA account, I don't have roles assigned to this account. Therefore, I cannot really continue. So good that actually it happened. So this is a case. Otherwise, if you have the role already approved, you should see here the eAF application form link, and from there access your application forms. So coming back to the presentation, so just very briefly, in a nutshell, to request the roles, we use the EMA account management portal following the request access for organizations. And please, when you access the PLM portal, we use the 3 steps, multi-factor authentication, username followed by id.ema.europa.eu, passwords, and then the third method, which can be the Microsoft Authenticator app, an SMS, or a call. And I would now hand over back to Christina for the demonstration on the eAF itself. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Joao. So now I will share my screen so that we can have a look at the application itself. Just one moment. Let me adjust what I'm sharing, and we will go here. So I hope you can now share my see my screen.
Yes.
Good. Excellent. So this is now the forum. That window a little bit. So here you can see the new portal. I have not yet signed in. You can see on the top. So we have the home page, which is accessible for everybody. You don't need to be logged in to access this page. So we have an option to sign in here or here from the top. We also have the forum, which I mentioned. The forum is available even if you haven't logged in. So you're able to look at the content here, but you cannot make any new threads. So you can't add a comment if you have not logged in, but all the documentation will be available here. So this is, for example, the release notes that I just mentioned for our latest release that went to production this Monday. If I sign in here now, I will be able to show you a few other tabs. So here under the sport tab, change that to the home page. So here we have access to the spore, and we have this tab called medicinal products. So this provides a full list of all centrally authorized medicinal products that are currently available through the electronic application form for selection. So you can filter these. Currently, it is not possible to export a list from here, but you can search using different criteria. So this is not the PMS system itself. This is displaying the centrally authorized products that we currently hold in the system. So once the PMS will be included in the PLM portal, there will be additional functionalities to look at these products and export a list of these products. But if you need to do something like that for now, please use the PMS API or other systems available for you at this time. So if we return to the home page and we would like to create a new application form, or we would like to access previously created application form, we can click here or click here. From here, I can directly go to the list of already created application forms, or we can go to the list of or select a new application form. So if I go to the already created forms, you can see the list of forms that are currently in draft status. You can see forms that have been deactivated, and you can see forms that have been completed. Of course, I can see all the forms done by everybody in the system. You will only be able to see your own forms. You can use a search here to see only forms that you have created. So for example, here you can see in the production environment the forms that I have created. So this would be your normal view. If you are a coordinator, you can see all the forms that have been created by yourself or by your colleagues from the same organization. Or if you have been invited as a co-author, you can also see those forms. But other users will only see the forms that have been created by themselves. And contributors will see forms that they have been invited to participate with, but they cannot create a new application form. We have received some questions since we went into production with regards to what happens with these different tabs. Currently, there are different features available here. So you can, if you have a draft form, you can continue editing the form by selecting here edit application form, or you can simply click in here into this hyperlink and it will open the form that you have previously created, and you can continue editing. If you have already exported the form, you can see the exports of that form in this tab. You can decide to deactivate that form, and when you do that, it will move into the deactivated tab. So if I do that now, as you can see, that form has now moved into the deactivated tab. So there. So this is what I just deactivated. However, we have some issues. So if I want to delete this form completely, if I say delete application form, see, it disappears from here, but unfortunately there's a defect. It is not deleted. In fact, it has returned here into my draft forms. So we can see it's come back in here. So there is some issues still in the system. The other features, what you can do here, it says copy application form. Again, this is, we have a known limitation. We don't have that feature available yet. So you're not able to copy the application form at the moment. However, you can of course view and manage your co-authors, which you would do in this window. And here, if you need to add a co-author, you can either select a co-author from your own organizations, the colleagues who are affiliated to your organization will be listed here. If you want to add a co-author from another organization, you will search for them using their email address here. And then you have an opportunity to notify that colleague if they are not yet affiliated to your organization, so that they will know to go to EMA Access Management to be affiliated with your application. We go back to this list just to give a little bit more information. If you are in the completed tab, let's see if I have any in here. I will now go to the UAT environment just to show you something. I don't want to disrupt too much of the production environment. So if we are here in the completed forms, so here, if you need to continue editing a form that has already been completed, so you have submitted that form and you want to continue editing it because you have, for example, been requested to provide validation response, you simply go in here and you say reopen the application form. This reopen the application form will move the form back into the draft area. So if I click this here now, we can see this form is called Business Scenario 10. I click here, you can see it has disappeared from here, and I will go here, and we can see Business Scenario 10 has now moved back into our draft area where we can continue editing this form. So anything that has been completed, and you will get a request for re-editing it, you can very simply move it from the completed by using this reopen application form. If we then would like to create a completely new application form, we will go here, create new application form. And then at the moment, of course, we only have the variation form available. It is good to use a friendly name that will help you to identify the form, or it will make you, it'll be easy to find it in future. So we can say business case 1, and then we will select our reference MAH. As I'm not working for the pharmaceutical industry, I will use for my examples the European Medicines Agency. You can, of course, only select as a reference marketing authorization holder the organization that you are affiliated to. And at this point, when you are selecting the reference MAH, you can still change it. So if you realize it's not the right organization, seems to be a little delay. There it is. So when I'm at this point and I have selected, I can still change it. So it's possible to remove the selected marketing authorization holder at this point. So if I realize I do not want this, I wanted to select a different organization. You may have this scenario if you are affiliated to more than one marketing authorization holder. So for example, you're a consultancy, or you are working for a large international company that has several subsidiaries that you are affiliated to in. So then you may have selected the incorrect one. Of course, most users would only have one marketing authorization holder available for them. Once I have selected this organization and I click create and next, it is no longer possible to change the MAH. So if you have at this point, you realize you have selected an incorrect organization, you cannot change it anymore, then just deactivate the form and start a new one. For now, it is not possible to change. I will not select a co-author for my application because we've already looked at that. And then we're here in the view for product selection. The products that you can select are those that are linked to your marketing authorization holder. So I have a huge list, so I can see all the products, the 3,125 entries that we saw in the Sport tab here earlier under medicinal products, but most users would only have the products that are relevant to them available for selection. I will select these products and I save. Here, I would like to draw your attention to a limitation that we have. We have some performance issue with the form, and you may get an error saying RPI missing. As you can see here on the right-hand side now, it says 0 out of 0 selected packages. There's a performance issue. So if I try and expand this here, there's no data available in the table. This means that the system is still calculating the packages that belong to these medicinal products. If I now click to validate, I will get this error, RPI cannot be blank for CAP products. This in fact has nothing to do with the RPI. The RPI is not blank, but this is an incorrect validation error that is displayed. And it is because of this performance aspect here. As long as this is shown as 0 out of 0 packages, if you try to validate, you will get this error. It is not a real validation error relating to the RPI. To get over that, normally I would suggest just go and fill in the following section of the form. So for example, you can move into the types of changes section and select your scopes. And then if you need to see more details about these packages, you can then come back. Now we can see that the package calculation has been done and the packages are now available. You don't, of course, select them here, but in case you needed to check which medicinal product you want to select because they have the same name, this is another limitation. This is where I refer to certain products will be updated following the match and merge from XEVMPD. This is one of those products. So we would not recommend to select this product, for example, for longer type 2 variation, because there will be changes to the product in future. But now, as the packages have been calculated, I can click validate and the RPI issue is no longer visible, so the section has been completed. We can then go and select relevant scopes. So here you click Add Scope, click the magnifying glass, and then you can search. So here you can search simply very similar way as you would search in the or drill down the list in the interactive PDF form. So you can click, for example, type B2, and then you click here. The more you type, if I add A and click here, so it always filters further and further. So you can use it very similar way as you would use the interactive PDF form, or if you wish, you can of course also type here. So let's, so for example, if I say immediate release and I search, and then I get anything that is related to that specific scope. So you have different ways of searching. You can then select, you don't have to click this small tick box, but you can simply select here. But please note, you can only select one scope at the time. And then you come to select the procedure type. In the interactive PDF, this used to be tick boxes. Here is a drop-down menu, but the contents is coming from exactly the same list in RMS, so there is no difference. For example, because I have selected type 1 AIN, I will now need to select an implementation date from the calendar, or I can type in the implementation note. Upon approval, for example. I will then select the relevant conditions and documentations. You can do this on the top level, like so, or you can just tick some that are relevant. If you need to provide justification because you're not meeting some of the conditions or you don't have all the documentation, you will add the note here using the edit. For the purpose of this demo, I will simply select this. Occasionally, we have experienced a validation error here when you have selected conditions and documentation. It says you have to select at least one. This happens only if you have used this top level selection. If it happens, simply untick on this level and select them again like this, and then that error will not happen. It doesn't happen every time. This is something that we are investigating, whether it relates to the other performance issues or if it's a different kind of bug. But always when bugs are intermittent and don't happen every time, they are a bit more complex to solve. We can then save. We have selected the scopes that we wanted, and if we wish, we can validate. Then we can move into the procedural information section. And in here, we have 3 areas. So we have now, as I mentioned earlier, it is now possible to indicate that this variation includes a line extension, even if we have selected a single scope. These are automatically calculated. So if I had selected more than one variation, this would change if I have more than one type 1A IN variation, it would then indicate IG or supergrouping. So there are business rules behind. You cannot yourself manually change this or this information here, or even the work sharing and the supergrouping. This is all calculated automatically. Because I have selected type 1A IN, the only option here for me on the changes concerns is medical devices, but I will not select that. And of course, here you can add the EMA variation procedure number if relevant. You will then can see the marketing authorization holder here, and of course you will need to provide a phone number and email address. So these are this is information that is from business point of view mandatory. We have identified that there are some mandatory fields that the system is not actually mandating you to provide. So for example, contact person should always be a mandatory field. Unfortunately, currently the form does not insist that it's a mandatory field. This is something that is a known issue that we will be addressing in a future release. But for now, even if the form doesn't force you to add a contact person, please do that, because you will get a business validation error if you don't do that. So this is where you will fill in these free text fields. And for a centralized procedure, it's always European Union for the member state. And then you will select your company from here. So you can search using the log ID, org ID, or the company name. I will not do this now for the purpose of this demo, and we simply save. Of course, at this point, if I try to validate, it should say no, can't, because you didn't fill in contact person. This is what I mentioned. So some validation rules are still missing from the form, but we're working to add those as soon as possible. Then we come to the, let's say, most important section of the form. We have received some questions. Why are the precise scope for change and background for change now split into 2 separate fields? This was a request from an EMA business expert who preferred that these 2 fields should be separated. If you don't, and they are both mandatory. So if you don't have, for example, your change is not grouping, work sharing, or you don't have any particular background, or you're not quite sure how to split the information because you're used to working with a single field, you can, of course, add the details in the precise scope for change field, and then just get over the validation error by adding not applicable here. So that's possible. So you add details here. And we also have a document available that describes the scenarios, how and what to type in the precise scope for change. This document is linked in the user guide for the application forms, and we will also add a link in here for you in a future release, just to make it a little bit more easier and user-friendly. So there will be a link directly to that document in here in the future. That link is not yet available at the time, but it's an ongoing change request. So that's the precise scope and background for change. So here I would always recommend to click save. It will close this section and you have to reopen it, but that's okay. Then here, the present and proposed changes. In order to add present and proposed, you will have to click here. This is not yet available until you have selected some presentation. So if you have, for example, a medical device, you will need to first add some information here. So in the present and proposed fields, please describe the change, what you are doing. So here you will include the present situation. You can add the images here directly into this. Simply copy pasting it using Control-C and Control-V works very well. So it may be the easiest way to do it. You can edit the text here, so you can use different colors, you can bold, you can underline, you can use italics. So editing is possible here. If you copy and paste already edited text here, unfortunately, you will lose the edits. So we will recommend that you edit in here. If you doing editing and you're copying from present to proposed, those edits will be kept. To add an organization, you will need to click here. I will always recommend to click save first, especially if you have added complex edited text in your present and proposed fields and you go to add an organization. It is strongly recommended to save first in order not to lose any changes. But you will get a message here. So this is a little bit of a loop where you come into, but if I click here, the form will say there are unsaved changes in the application form. Do you want to save? Always say yes, because if you say no, you will lose what you have added in the present and proposed. Also, to avoid that from happening, if you are adding an organization, it may make sense to add the organization first. We are now in this organization field. So if the organization that you want to add into the present field is not available, you can click here and then you can add details of the organization manually, and the proposed organization will always have to be added using OMS. There is again a known limitation. Unfortunately, at the time, you can only add one proposed organization at the time. So if you just select the first one there and anything, when you save, it is not possible to add another one. If I click here, it will just override my selection. So if you want to add another organization, then you will have to repeat the step and go back here, and then you can add another present organization. But that present organization is not mandatory, but if you want to add more proposed organizations, you can repeat this step, but you can't do it at one go, so you have to always go back to do that. So now we can see we have two, and here I have not selected a present organization. In here I have, and if you wish to see the details, you will click in this little yes, and here you can see the organization that I manually edit. If I have selected from OMS, the details will be visible here. So this behavior is only if you have manually edited added the organization. Then very important step, you always need to combine the scopes and the packages to your change. So in here, I have only selected one scope. So this is very simple. And now, because I only have one scope, of course, I need to select both of these. There could be for centralized procedure cases where you have selected more than one scope, and one scope is affecting one of the medicinal products, and the second scope is affecting another medicinal product. This is a realistic scenario that can be done for centrally authorized products. I'd like to highlight here a known issue, a known limitation. Occasionally, not all of these MA numbers will be visible here. So you may select a medicinal product here, and then nothing is displayed under the selected package medicinal products. You will get an error when you try to save. Save anyway, and when you come back here, hopefully they have come. This is again an issue that we are investigating. It may be related to the same performance issue that I mentioned in the very beginning about the product selection, but we know that there are some issues related to this. But you must select at least one. So here, even though I have selected, but I haven't selected for both medicinal products because I have two medicinal products here, the system will tell me that I must select at least one package to proceed. So I must select at least one package from each medicinal product. So you cannot have a medicinal product selected without any packages selected. So now that I have made sure that I have selected a package for each medicinal product, I can click save and I will not get that error message again. Like so. And then you can add, if you have, sorry, maybe just to go back here. So if you need to add more details, or for example, it's a medical device change or ATC code change or something where you would like to indicate here. So if you have a medical device to launch the medical devices section, you will need to select it from here, from this list. If it's just another change, you can add as many present and proposed fields as you would like. So you will just repeat what I just did there earlier. If you want to go back and see what you have done, you can view or edit from here. If you want to delete, you realize you've made a mistake or you were just playing around, you can delete that completely. And then of course save. But to save time, we're nearly at the end before the Q&A session. So here you can add an EMA procedure. We have some known issue related to the other applications. So it may say that there are no other procedures available for selection. If this is the case, don't worry, you still have an option to do that by simply using this plus add. Again, this is something that we are working to improve. So all other ongoing and in fact also already finished EMA procedures should become available through that tab. But for now, you can simply manually add the procedure numbers here and then save. You can repeat this step as many times as needed. Then if we save, and then we move to the finalization section. In this release that we just launched this Monday, we have fixed, there was an issue related to mandatory tick boxes in the form. So if you have selected labeling, package leaflet, or SPC, in the below section, in the declaration of applicant, there are 3 tick boxes that relate to personal information. And these tick boxes had unfortunately disappeared. They are now back. So you will no longer get the validation error. So now you, of course, have to select the mandatory tick boxes. You have the proof of payment section. and you've got the signatories section. Again, another known limitation, you can currently only add one additional signatory. We will be solving this, so in future there will be an option to add more additional signatories into the form. If you have a scenario currently where you need to add another signatory, please use the PDF form. Important note, you cannot sign or you cannot add a signature here in the web form, but once you have exported the form, then you will add your digital signature. The use of the signature is not mandatory. We will not reject if you have not included a signature, but please note that we are still negotiating with our legal colleagues with regards to the use of the signature, and we strongly recommend you to include a signature. This can be a digital signature. We have also seen an image of a signature has been included in a production application that we received by applicant. So it is possible. Please consider if you like to sign the form or not. We will not reject for now if you have not. Then I will quickly demonstrate on how to export the form. So here, if you have completely finished, you can click the finalize. I will get loads of validation errors because I have not yet finished my form. But once you click here, then the form will move into your completed forms. When in the beginning of this session, we looked at the section where you have the list of forms. You will no longer find it from your drafts. It will have moved into your completed forms once you have finalized. If you need to continue editing, please then go into the right-hand tab to say continue editing, and it will move back to the drafts. But if we look at the export feature, please note that you can export the form at any point. We have not limited to this, to that only completed form can be exported, because this is a major change from the interactive form. The look and feel is very different. So for you to understand which fields you have even filled in, we felt it's important that you're always able to export at any time. So of course, save your changes and then export. So it will do a little data refresh. Depending on how much content you have added on your form, how many scopes, how many images, how many products you have selected, how many combinations of scopes and packages you have done, this may take longer or might be very quick. So here you can see I've received a validation error because I haven't filled in the form completely. That's fine. We can still export. So we simply say, please, would you like to continue to export? Yes, I would like to continue to export the form. Here we can see that the form is being exported. I need to tick this. This is very important. So please note that the form, the XML that is contained in the PDF, it contains commercially confidential information about the product that has been selected here. So this is also a very, very important reminder to those who are working in the work sharing variations. Currently, the XML contains commercially confidential information that is not visible in the web user interface or in the PDF itself. But if you start looking into the XML content, you will find commercially confidential data. So always consider before inviting co-authors that commercially confidential information is available. This is a known limitation. We want to make sure that such information would not be available. Only the information that is visible in the form and in the PDF would be in the XML. But currently, there are additional data in the XML. So here we can download the form, available here, and we can now open it from here. Now, when I open it in a browser, you can see everything in the form. You can jump in the different sections, but there's something I would like to show in a PDF that is opened inside in Adobe itself. So I will stop sharing and I will open a form that I have already have, not that one. So this one, just one moment, and I shall share so that you can see my Adobe Reader. I hope you can see my screen now. So this is now the application form that I have opened using Adobe Acrobat Reader. We would always recommend, please use Reader to avoid any unintentional editing of the form. And one of the things that I would very much like to highlight here is that the XML of the form is now attached here. It is when I open it with Adobe Reader, I can open this by clicking into it. It will open in a different screen, which you can't see now because I'm sharing Adobe. But if I have opened this form with the Adobe Acrobat Pro, there will be an image of a bin here, and I can simply highlight this XML and delete it. Please don't ever do that, because if you submit a form without the XML, our automation cannot read it, and we will have to manually enter the information into the system. While we have just launched this form, it's not yet mandatory to use it. We have like a soft launch period at the moment. So we will not reject the form based on the XML is missing. But if we have any other validation comments, we will ask you to make sure that in your validation response, you have this XML included. So please don't remove it. I know in the ECTD guidance, it says there should be no attachments to any documents. This is an exception. Please do not remove this XML. It is important to us because we will use it to feed our systems with the data from the form. So it's very, very important not to remove this attachment. If you realize that you are not manually removing it, but when you zip your ECTD or your ECTD building tool strips it off, please let us know immediately. You can raise a service desk ticket or you can contact us via email through the ESA Proc officer. But it is important for us to know details of your system and what happens, why is it stripped off, and then we can talk to that particular tool vendor because there may be an issue. But very, very important note, do not remove the XML from here. So I think we have now overrun a bit with the presentation and we should go and start the Q&A. So I have now hopefully stopped sharing and we can start taking your questions. Apologies for running over.
Oh, thank you, Christina, for the really comprehensive explanations, and also to Joao, of course, for the access management part. Let's now go to the Slido where we already received many questions. Let's start from the most voted ones. How can we extract or import all the products available from my organization in Excel file? Can we expect search filter customization be improved with search criteria with org ID or name and download the file?
That's a very good question. This is actually more relating to PMS. So the view that I showed in the very beginning when I went into the Sport tab in the portal, indeed does not allow you to extract or export a list of products. This functionality will be available in future through the PMS interface that will be added into the PLM portal. It is not available as of yet. So if you need to look at your products, what is available, I believe the PMS API may already be available. Maybe my colleague Veronica is able to give any information, further information related to an export of products. But from the eAF point of view, that is not yet possible.
Hello, colleagues. This is Veronica. Yes, exactly. As my colleague Christina was mentioning, there is not yet availability to export the product data, but we are working in future to release the functionality. So that's one of the future objective for the next year. And for now, the only information that you can see is indeed related to the data elements that you can already see available in the application form release 1. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Veronica.
Thank you both. Okay. What is the best option for users for a company that has several people at the same time filling eAFs for variations for all the portfolio and need to edit and have access to all the information of the product?
There is no limitation on how many users from one organization you can have to the system. I would like to just add one word of warning. We have another known limitation. There is no warning in the system if two colleagues are editing the same application form exactly at the same time. You may accidentally override each other's changes. So if you have multiple colleagues working on the same form, please try and coordinate that you don't work exactly at the same time to avoid any accidental override. We are working or looking into working with a feature that would indicate if another colleague is already editing that form. So unfortunately, it is not like SharePoint where you can all add your changes at the same time without overwriting. So please bear that in mind. But with regards to limitation in the point of view, how many colleagues can edit the forms, or you can have, for larger companies, you can have 10 or 100 or as many users as you want, and they can all edit their forms at the same time, just not the same form, ideally at the same time.
Thank you. Do we have a list of known issues, bugs? So maybe this was missed at the beginning of the presentation, Christina.
Indeed. So we have the document called release notes. The release notes is available through the PLM portal forum. You can see it's called PLM portal eAF release notes. And this document is also available on the eSubmissions website on the PLM page. This is a document that is a living document. We continuously keep on updating it. So every time we have a release, we update it, but we also can do other updates to add other known issues and bugs. So we want to keep this document very interactive and make sure that users are aware of known bugs. I can now say that yes, we have some bugs that are not yet listed in there because we had a very large product increment planning meeting at the same time as we had preparation for this release, so I didn't have sufficient time to add all the new bugs that we have discovered and added to the list, but indeed we aim to keep this always updated, and we will add new bugs into the list as we go along. Similarly with the user guide, I try and identify in the user guide, in the portal navigation guide, any issues, any known limitations, and of course once they are solved, we will remove them and we will update those documents.
Good. Okay, now we have a question, I think, from a participant for the user acceptance testing that we conducted in September. It's asking whether we will keep open both the user acceptance testing and production environment, and whether these two systems are built on the same backbone and are equivalent in terms of speed as well.
Currently, they are both available. We didn't want to cut the access to the UAT environment in case we want to restart an alpha testing, or we do a particular scenario where we would like to ask users to test it. But in principle, there is no need for any external user to access the UAT environment at all. You should only use the production environment. We use the user acceptance test environment to confirm any changes before the release. So if you went to the UAT system, let's say last Friday, you will have seen changes in the system that were not yet in production, because we're actually deploying into that environment before we push into production, and we do some final checks in that system. So it may actually work better if we're working on performance improvements. They may be deployed into UAT before they become available in production. There's also maybe difference in speed because there may be less products available, but I would strongly recommend forget about the UAT for now. Don't go to that environment. Delete the link so that you don't accidentally go there and try and create your production form in there. The production environment can be used for your internal testing at the moment.
Thanks for clarifying. How long will my application forms be stored?
So there's retention periods. These are also mentioned in the user guide. So for your drafts and your completed, the retention period is 2 years, so 104 weeks. And for your deactivated forms, where you're not working actively on them, but as we know, we can't delete at the moment. For deactivated, it is 1 year. So 2 years for drafts and completed.
Thanks. Is there any option to export XML data from eAF and import to another eAF of the same product as we can do now with eAF? So there is a concern in terms of time that is taken to complete the form.
At the moment, this is not unfortunately possible. We know that there is a bit of a learning curve, and it may take a lot longer to fill in the form because it's completely different. The flow is very different. Hopefully in future, when users get more used to it, it will become faster. We are also, we have a very highly requested feature called copy application. We're currently looking at which way the copy application would be best. But at the moment, for each application, even if it contains the same products or the same scopes, you will have to create a new one. But at the moment, no, you cannot export and import the XML. So if you like to do that, please continue using the PDF. But as time goes, we will improve the performance and the features within the web-based form. We will add convenience features and things that will make the use of it easier and better. But for now, we understand that it may feel that it takes a lot longer to fill it in.
I'm working on a grouped type 2, type 1A variation submission. Within this package, I would like to describe proposed editorial changes in the product information which are not linked to a specific scope. How should it be done with eAF?
There should be no difference. You will do it exactly like you would do it with the other application form. So if you have a procedural aspect that you're not quite sure how to do, but it's not really related to the change of the technology. So with this introduction of the web-based form, we're not changing anything related to the procedures or how you submit. It's simply the form that is different. So follow exactly the same scenario as you would have done with the interactive PDF form. No change at all. If you're a little bit unsure, you can contact your procedure lead.
Thanks. If the co-authors belong to different organizations, as is the case with the bigger pharma companies, can I still select them to contribute to my eAF?
Yes, absolutely. So indeed, you will add a co-author from another organization. So you have to search them via email. And of course, those other co-authors need to be affiliated to your marketing authorization holder. But that means that they will then be able to see the commercially confidential data about your products in the PDF XML. But indeed, this is possible. And with bigger pharma companies, because you may all belong under the same global company, this commercially confidential data issue may not be an aspect at all, but please do bear it in mind. But yes, it is possible.
Is it possible to reuse already completed submitted forms?
It is possible. We would only recommend this though for updating the form when you have been requested to provide validation response. So you have submitted a form and something was wrong, then yes, indeed, go back to your form and make those edits and resubmit. But if you have another variation procedure starting for those same products with a slightly different scope, I would strongly recommend against reusing the already completed form, because what if you are requested to do another update to your original form, then you'd have to go back and try and change it back to how it was. So this can lead to confusion. We understand this is very annoying. Hopefully the copy application form will help in future with this, but unfortunately for now, please try and refrain from reusing for another procedure. For same procedure, absolutely yes, you should. For another procedure, please don't.
Thank you. Still, we have just a couple of minutes left, so I would like to inform all the participants that in any case we are collecting all the questions from the latest Q&A clinics and trainings, and we will be compiling soon a document only with frequently asked questions, because some of them are also repeated in the different sessions, so this will be made available through our usual channels. And now I would like to show a bit what are the next steps upcoming. So just a moment that I will now project again presentation and hand over to you, Christina. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. So for further information, we will have another Q&A clinic on 19th of December. So that's next Monday. These Q&A clinics are sessions that are very interactive. We're simply there to answer any questions you have. So there is no presentations at all. We're only there to answer questions. So this is to give a channel where you can get hopefully an immediate answer to your question. We have kept open the Slido from the previous Q&A clinics, and we'll also keep the Slido open from today, and we will aim to answer as many questions as we can. But these Q&A clinics are there for you. With any questions, please join, and we will try and answer those as quickly as possible. We also have a system demo, which is part of these safe agile ceremonies. So this is next week as well, but there will be a lot of other products introducing their progress as well. So PMS colleagues will be there, API colleagues will be there. So we won't be doing a full detailed training like today, but we will have a very high level overview of the portal since the go live, because we are introducing what happened in the last 3 months increment of work. And we will be, of course, continuing our Q&A clinics to next year, and the dates will be announced very soon. So dates you will be able to then find on the EMA events page, and of course from the portal 4.
Thank you very much, Christina. And thank you everybody for participating today. Thank you to the speakers, also to João and Veronica for addressing questions on PMS. As mentioned by Christina, many questions have also been addressed in writing, so please check the Slido and see you at the next event. Thank you.